On August 12th, the island that he was actually born on, the Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew stood up and accused Moscow of an uncanonical intrusion. He basically said that they tore apart another church's territory without permission, built a rival jurisdiction where they had basically no right to be. And you got to understand something. That's a serious charge. And honestly, he's not necessarily wrong to be angry about it. But here's what should actually stop you cold right here. That's exactly what he did to Ukraine back in 2018. And it's exactly what Serbia is terrified that he's going to basically do next in Montenegro. Same move, just a different church on basically the receiving end this time. So which is it? Is jurisdiction sacred, or is it only sacred when it's his? 2 days after that speech, the Serbian patriarch was already out issuing denials. Denials about the rumors nobody in Belgrade even claims that they started. Confusion, turmoil, distrust. His words, not mine, guys. And look, Constantinople's defenders will tell you that there's a canon that covers this. Chalcedon, 9th canon, and the 17th canon. Go read them for yourself sometime. They say that Constantinople can basically hear an appeal. That's it. They don't say Constantinople gets to redraw a map of Orthodoxy whenever it basically decides that another church has been ungrateful. That gap between, what the canons actually say and what's being claimed in their name, that's where the danger lives. Welcome back to Spiritual FrontLines, guys. I'm your host, Marco. Before we get into it, if you're new here, hit subscribe. And if this channel's actually been worth your time, drop a like. It actually does help people actually find this stuff because we got a lot of suppression going on with this algorithm. They don't want you to hear this information. Putting something obviously like this together, guys, it takes real time, the sourcing, the fact checking, all of it. And if you want to help keep this going, hit the join button and become a channel member. That's it. All right, let's get into it. So let's actually lay this out plain, because once you actually see it, you can't actually unsee it. We're going to start with that same speech on Imbros. Bartholomew, he doesn't just go after Moscow for Alexandria. He actually calls them out by name for their ingratitude, basically. His word towards what he basically calls the mother church. He says that they forgot who gave them the light of the Christian faith and civilization in the first place. Then, in the same speech, he turns towards Serbia, and he doesn't actually, say Patriarch Porphyria's name. He actually doesn't even have to. Just notes that some primates have basically visited other churches, the 4th and the 5th, and then somehow they skip past the 1st, meaning him. Ungrateful children on one side, basically, and then basically an ode visit on the other. That's not two separate incidents. That's actually one man in one sermon treating two entire churches like they basically answer to him. Ukraine wants out from under Moscow, and so Constantinople grants them autocephaly, right? We talked about this in the last episode. So what they do is they basically recognize a new independent, schismatic Ukrainian church over Moscow's objection, and then Moscow calls it uncanonical. It cuts off communion, and it's basically the biggest rupture in Orthodoxy in centuries. And we're probably going to do kind of an in-depth dive in the future on this particular schism, but for now, let's kind of stick to this right now. We're going to fast forward to this January, okay? Russian intelligence puts out this wild statement calling Bartholomew the Antichrist in a cassock. And we're going to actually get to how much weight that source actually deserves in a minute. But buried inside of all that noise is one real claim, that basically he's planning to recognize the breakaway Montenegrin church, the one that Serbia has never actually recognized. Again, another completely schismatic entity, the one that would basically strip away territory that Serbia has basically held since 1920. And now this month, Moscow's turned to be on the other side of it. Okay, Bartholomew basically says that Moscow's the one doing the intruding, and they're sending bishops into Africa onto Alexandria's turf without asking. So we have three churches, 3 different years, one move over and over, right? Recognize or install a rival structure on one end, right? Basically someone else's territory without their consent, and then call the other guy ungrateful while you're doing it. And then, Montenegro, it's weird, right? Like Montenegro's not the same gray area either. That region's been Serbian Orthodox since 1219, the same year that Saint Sava himself founded the Serbian church itself. And there's a stretch, okay, a century and a half or so after the Ottomans actually wiped out the Serbian Patriarchate in 1766, where Montenegro's church basically ran itself under its own prince bishops, but it never actually went anywhere. It never joined Constantinople. It never recognized some rival body. It stayed Serbian Orthodox the entire time, and then it folded itself back into the reunified Serbian church in 1918 by its own vote after Serbia won World War I. So there's no version of this where Montenegro was ever actually independent church-wise from Serbia. Self-governing for a while, sure. Separate, never. And that's not a pattern that anyone's actually imagining, right? That's just what happened. Now, to be fair, Constantinople, they've got an answer for this, okay? And you should actually hear it because, it's not nothing. They're going to point you to Chalcedon, 451 AD, Canons 9 and 17, and they're going to tell you that those canons make Constantinople something unique, the court of the last appeal for the whole Orthodox world, first among equals, or, the way some of them talk about it, first without equals. So go read the canons. I did, okay? Canon 9, if a clergyman's got a dispute with his bishop and it goes all the way up, it lands at the throne of the imperial city of Constantinople, and there let it be tried. Canon 17 says almost the same thing, but for parish boundary disputes. That's it. An appeals court. For internal disputes, guys, inside the structure that already existed back then. Nowhere in that text does it say Constantinople gets to walk into another patriarch's territory, recognize a rival church that, the patriarchate never accepted, and then call it settled. And nowhere in it does it actually say that Constantinople gets to stand up and call a sister church ungrateful for not falling in line. That's not in Canon 9. That's not in Canon 17 either. That's an interpretation that someone built on top of them centuries later, and it just so happens to be the interpretation that gives Constantinople the most power and the loudest voice to judge everyone else by. Funny how that works out. So here's where it actually gets uncomfortable, okay? Because obviously, guys, this isn't ancient history. This is actually happening right now as we're recording this. 90% of the Orthodox Montenegrins are under the Serbian church, a church that's been there in one form or another since 1219. Even during the years that it actually ran itself after the Ottomans crushed the Serbian Patriarchate, it never once broke away. It never actually recognized anybody else, and it basically came home to Serbia by its own choice in 1918. So there's a rival there that you need to know about, okay? The so-called Montenegrin Orthodox Church, another schismatic entity just like the OCU. And it's basically got none of that, okay? It shows up in 1993 out of nowhere, no lineage, no continuity, nothing. Never recognized, not by Serbia, not by anybody, and not even by Constantinople officially. But back in January, that's exactly what Russian intelligence claimed was actually coming. Constantinople actually recognizing that rival body specifically to hit Serbia where it actually hurts. And I want to be straight with you here because this actually matters. That claim obviously comes from Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service. It's an interested party, obviously. It's putting out one of the most unhinged statements that you're ever going to read from a state agency. That's not a neutral witness, obviously, and I want to be fair here, okay? And Constantinople's own people have actually denied it outright. Metropolitan Emmanuel said that flatly they never had anything to do with it. So hold on to that lightly, though. It's an allegation, obviously not a confirmed plan. But then, 2 days after Bartholomew stood up and called Russia ungrateful and needled basically Serbia over a visit, Patriarch Porphyria basically goes public with a denial of his own, Not about Constantinople this time. A rumor that Serbia was about to plant a new diocese inside of Montenegro, Porphyria basically, he shoots it down hard. He calls it a well-designed, malicious campaign. He says it's basically meant to sow confusion, turmoil, and distrust. So we have two rumors, opposite directions, both about the same 600 square miles, both obviously surfacing within days of a speech where Constantinople was already lecturing both churches about their obligations to the mother church. And I'm not going to tell you that those things are connected, Nobody's actually proven that. But the timing, it's not nothing. Here's the thing that people actually miss when they hear ecclesiastical dispute and they completely tune out. Every one of these jurisdictional fights has tracked a geopolitical line. Ukraine's autocephaly, it didn't happen in a vacuum, guys. It happened alongside Kiev, pulling away from Moscow and towards the west, with Washington, D.C. cheering it on and being directly involved in it. We've obviously talked about that in the last episode. Montenegro's church question sits right on top of Montenegro's NATO membership, its drift away from Belgrade's orbit. And back in 2019, when Montenegro passed a law that stripped Serbian church property and handed the state the power to decide who owns 900 years of churches and monasteries, that law wasn't neutral. Independent legal scholars called it exactly what it looked like: unconstitutional, expropriation, no due process, a straight shot at the SOC, okay? It was so unpopular, by the way, that it actually helped end 30 years of one-party rule in the next election. Now, Moscow says that Washington, D.C. was behind that law. It says that the State Department engineered the whole thing to weaken Serbia's church, the same way that they basically backed Ukraine breaking from Moscow. And I'm going to be honest with you, I couldn't actually independently confirm that right now. There are some links, and I'm still kind of going through those sources, but what's actually documented is that the U.S. Embassy meeting with both churches, both sides, all through that fight, they've done this kind of repeatedly, okay? So take that specific accusation with the same grain of salt that we've actually given the whole Antichrist statement earlier, right? But you don't need to prove that Washington engineered it to see the shape of it. The law itself was actually real. The damage to the Serbian church was actually real. And every time one of these lines gets redrawn, Ukraine, Montenegro, it's never neutral ground. It always tracks the same direction, away from Moscow, away from Belgrade, and Belgrade and to the United States, to the west, okay? The canons are 1,500 years old, guys. The map that that's being applied to them basically keeps changing with every single election, every alliance, every war. And basically, the ingratitude language, it never actually gets aimed at the churches doing what Constantinople actually wants, only at the ones that won't actually fall in line. That's key here. So when you hear uncanonical intrusion, don't just hear a churchman being touchy about turf. Hear a fight over who gets to draw the borders of the Orthodox world and who that redrawing actually serves. So let's not pretend that both sides here are equally in the wrong, okay? Moscow was right about Ukraine in 2018. That was Serbia's own patriarch and Serbia's own metropolitan saying it at that time, and not just Moscow. Constantinople took territory that wasn't its to take, and it called it canon law. And Serbia's right now also. It's right to be watching Montenegro like a hawk, right to be furious that a 900-year-old church is being treated like a bargaining chip. And it's actually right to notice that the same man who calls Russia ungrateful for not submitting is the one who keeps somehow magically deciding over and over and over again that the rules bend for him and nobody else. That's not first among equals, guys. That's just first. The churches on the other end of that, Moscow, Serbia, they're not the ones destabilizing Orthodoxy. They're the ones actually standing still while the ground gets moved underneath them. Stay armed, stay sober, and remember, Christ is King.